Welcome back to the Market Breakdown. Today is Friday, July 24, 2026, and Wall Street, big tech, and global regulators are locking horns in one of the most explosive 24 hours of market news we've seen all year. From a staggering $500 billion single-session market wipeout for Tesla and Google, to SpaceX turning away rocket customers to double down on Starship and the US government backing down against the New York Times in a high-stakes First Amendment battle, we have a loaded lineup today. Let's break down the news moving billions. We start on Wall Street, where the honeymoon phase for artificial intelligence spending officially ended with a $500 billion crash. On Thursday, Tesla and Alphabet reported quarterly earnings. Both companies actually beat revenue expectations, yet their stock prices experienced historic freefalls. Tesla dropped 14.5% in its worst single session since March 2025, erasing roughly $200 billion in value. Alphabet plunged 7.1%, shedding nearly $300 billion. Alphabet raised its 2026 capital expenditure guidance to between $195 billion and $205 billion, warning spending will accelerate even more in 2027. Meanwhile, Tesla's Q2 capex surged 142% year-over-year to $5.79 billion as Elon Musk accelerates investments in autonomous driving, custom chips, and the Optimus humanoid robot line. Tesla is now committing over $25 billion in capex this year alone. SpaceX is officially turning away satellite operators looking for dedicated Falcon 9 launches beyond 2028. They've also halted production on expendable Falcon components, like upper stages, and stopped taking new orders for Falcon 9 rideshare missions. SpaceX is putting almost all its chips on Starship, even as the mega rocket faces ongoing test flight delays. Meanwhile, Alphabet disclosed in its latest 10-Q filing that its roughly 6% stake in SpaceX, which originated from a $900 million bet back in 2015, is now worth a mind-boggling $94.1 billion. That unrealized gain drove $98 billion in other income for Google this past quarter. Plus, reports indicate Google and SpaceX are discussing orbital data centers launched via rocket. Shares of WISEa.L tumbled 10% in London and nearly 7% in pre-market U.S. trading after the U.S. Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, OCC, rejected its application to create a national trust bank. The OCC cited four major roadblocks. The Federal Reserve's pause on Tier 3 master accounts since June 2025. Existing state consent orders against WISEa.L. A prior U.S. consent order regarding anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing deficiencies. A cited lack of fiduciary experience among WISEa's U.S. management team. According to exclusive reporting from Reuters, Anduril is in talks for a new funding round that could value the company at $100 billion. That would place the 2017 founded startup nearly neck and neck with legacy giants like Lockheed Martin, $130 billion. Just 2 months ago, Anduril closed a $5 billion Series H at a $61 billion valuation. Now, investors are discussing an unusual two-stage structure where they commit to a second tranche at a $110 billion valuation within a year, tied to financial performance milestones. Stripe is in advanced talks to acquire OpenRouter, an AI model marketplace, in a deal valuing the startup at $10 billion. OpenRouter was valued at $1.3 billion just 2 months ago, representing an 8-fold jump. OpenRouter allows developers to easily switch between models from OpenAI, Anthropic, and open-source providers. And speaking of private market juggernauts staying private longer, Goldman Sachs has launched a dedicated private markets platform for ultra-wealthy clients. As Goldman's Kristen Olson noted, companies are going public at $1 trillion. If you haven't participated along the way, you're missing a big part of the growth cycle. Ford announced it will embed Apple Maps natively into its next-gen universal electric vehicle platform, starting with a $30,000 mid-size EV pickup in 2027. But this isn't just dashboard CarPlay. By using Apple's MapKit for Automotive SDK rather than building its own mapping system, Ford cuts R&D costs while offloading complex software architecture to Apple. First, in Washington, the Justice Department has suffered a major rebuke. DOJ lawyers withdrew all subpoenas against 4 New York Times journalists after federal judge Arun Subramanian threatened sanctions over slipshod legal work and illegally seizing phone records of reporters' family members regarding stories on Air Force One security flaws. And in Brussels, the European Commission formally accused TikTok of failing to protect minors, revealing that default privacy settings allowed strangers to view accounts of users aged 13 to 17. If TikTok fails to remedy the breaches under the Digital Services Act, ByteDance faces fines of up to 6% of its global annual revenue.